Hello. Welcome to a little video about injury prevention. My name is Phil. I have been working with the human body for about 15 years, 10 of that as a licensed massage therapist in the state of Pennsylvania. And I often get asked, how do I prevent an injury? Or how can I keep the things that keep happening from happening? Well, there's one real major way to do that. And the first thing is to listen to our bodies. And so what does that really entail? In the mind-body connection, the body is often taking commands from the mind. It's constantly having to listen to the mind, tell it to do stuff, cheeseburger, push-up, burpee, row 100, row 150, grab a kettlebell, go to bed, brush teeth. The body is listening to all these commands constantly, but the mind isn't always listening to the body. So the first thing we can do for injury prevention is listen to our bodies. And the way our bodies tell us things is through pain. It's the sensations of pain that the body uses to say, hey, something's going on here, something's going on there. Please pay attention. So there's some classifications of pain that I'll give you. These are anecdotal. No, you're not going to find these, just out and about in some book somewhere. I've classified these over the years. So just anecdotal, take it with a grain of salt. But bone pain, I find people typically describe as dull, achy, or burny. Muscle pain is described as sore, tender, or often stiffness. And the neurological side of pain is typically sharp or stabby, or just very, someone might talk about really intense pains. And that can be on the neurological side. So what does the classifications there really tell us? If we have the dull, achy, burny, we're talking about something acting upon a bone and the bone saying, I don't want this acting upon me in this way. Please pay attention. That's that's how the bone signals. The muscles typically say I'm sore or tender. They often only signal that after doing the action or, poking them a little bit. Neurological though, that's typically sharp, stabby, and we know about it quite readily. It's touch it or move it and boom, there it is. So that's kind of how the body talks to us. It sends us these pain signals. Not all pain is equal and everyone's pain thresholds are different, but it is the way our bodies are talking to our minds. Now, what can we do with that information? Early warning signs. Not feeling the burn or the pump in a muscle. If you're an active person and you're working out, or even if you're just walking around and you really don't ever get the lactic acid burn in a muscle group, that could be the body signaling something's going on here. You're doing action, but we're not really feeling it. The muscle isn't activating correctly, and thus the action isn't occurring with the major muscle group. It's occurring with secondary or tertiary muscles. And so that muscle is either unstable or not active, and it's making other things do its job. Now, you might also get weakness or fatigue, and that has to do with the muscle maybe not activating correctly, or maybe the muscle's overworked and now it's too weak or it's fatigued and it doesn't want to do the action we're asking it to do. So it sends us kind of that pain signal of like, this is tiring. I have too much lactic acid, or I'm overworked. I'm trying to repair. We also have loss of range of motion or flexibility. Now, there's a massive difference here. Range of motion, ROM, is the distance of travel inside of the joints. So the range of motion has to do with the joints themselves, whereas flexibility has to do with the lengthening of muscles. They are two different things. You can be hyperflexible or have hypermobility and not have the opposite, or have both or one or neither. So again, range of motion has to do with the joints. Flexibility has to do with the lengthening of the muscles. So if we have a loss of range of motion, the muscle group around that joint might not be functioning correctly. It might be saying like, hey, we're tired, or something's not working correctly. So you're not allowed to move that joint the way you think you should be able to move it. That's a sign. Flexibility. We might not be as flexible, or we might not be as capable of a lift. Now, flexibility works in both ways. Flexibility has direct correlation to the strength of a muscle. So a flexibility issue can also look like not being able to lift the same amount of weight we used to be able to. A weakness in the muscle in that regard. That's also flexibility related. Finally, early warnings, swelling or discomfort. Specifically in the morning or night though. So we have the Krebs cycle, and we also have the inflammation cycles of the body that do these healing processes throughout the day, but specifically at night. So if you're going to bed at night and you notice that you have some swelling, that could be an early warning of an injury. Like, oh, maybe I twisted this or overworked this part of my body and I have some swelling going on here. And then also if you wake up in the morning and it's still there, that could definitely be a sign that like, oh, wait, the body's trying to heal something. That's what inflammation is there to do. Inflammation that becomes stuck in an area can become caustic, and that turns into a whole degree of other things like autoimmune situations and all this other stuff that can occur there. Inflammation, in my personal opinion, is the precursor to about 85% of diseases, but not a doctor. Take everything I see with a grain of salt. This is just my own anecdotal experiences. Moving on, we have the onset warnings. Pain during action is an onset warning. That means maybe we haven't quite injured something yet, but the body's definitely thinking we're about to. And so it sends us these pains during an action. These pains could be dull, achy, burny. They could be sore or tenderness. They could be sharp or stabby. That will signal us to know what kind of injury might be occurring, but the body will send us that functional message of, hey, pain here, pay attention. Could be an injury, could get worse. We also have compensation actions. This is limping. This is having to use both hands to brace, doing a push-up and maybe one shoulder gives a little bit or something like that, or having to use two arms to lift something instead of what we used to be able to just do with one. Compensation actions can also include where we try to find what's known as positions of comfort. So like if I'm trying to put my arm in front of me, I might have a shoulder issue going on. If it feels kind of better to kind of hold my arm up, or, the way I'm sitting and where I'm putting it, that could be a compensation action. And finally, there's failure of action. If I go to do an action and the body just fails at it, that's an onset warning. That means an injury is occurring or has already occurred in that regard. Well, knowing all that, what kind of common injuries can easily be prevented or fixed? Specifically, tendinitis. Inflammation, again, precursor to about 85% of diseases. Disease being defined as anything outside of homeostasis. Tendinitis, tendinitis. Tendons, we have ligaments, tendons, and muscles. They act upon our skeletal system. Itis, inflammation. So a tendon that is inflamed. Now, we hear things like golfer and tennis elbow all the time. Specifically, my job, all the time. I hear it all the time. They are some of the worst descriptors there are. We either have medial, inside towards the center of the body, or lateral, outside, away from the center of the body. Inflammation of the tendon, either above or below. We have inflammation. It's tendinitis. Golfers and tennis elbows, tendinitis. Typically, depending on which one, it's mostly in the flexors or extensors of the forearm. There's also carpal tunnel. Carpal tunnel can be pretty much related to, or is completely related to, in my personal opinion, inflammation of the flexors and extensors, specifically the flexors of the forearm, pushing pressure on the inside of the carpal canal and causing that pain. These are treatable. There's all sorts of ways to treat these. We also have just the general shoulder, back, hip, knee, or ankle issues. Now, in my work, there's specific words that we use to describe some of this stuff. We might talk about tendinitis. We might talk about what's known as an adhesion. Adhesions are what you call knots. And this occurs when some sort of action is making two pieces of the body rub together over and over again, and they get stuck together. That's what an adhesion is, or what you call a knot. That causes inflammation. If it's a tendon and a muscle, or two tendons, then we get tendinitis. We get inflammation of those tendons. And so that's the cascade effect here. But there was probably a signal before that saying, I'm a little overworked, or, we need to rest this area. And so that's how you can prevent these things, is by paying attention to, am I getting that little bit of a burny feeling or pain inside of the elbow, or on the outside of the elbow, or maybe in the forearm, the wrist, it's in the shoulder line. Am I going to have some tendinitis issues there with something like coracobrachialis or the pectorals? All of these things are typically signaled ahead of time by a pain or a swelling or a burning, or any one of these processes in which the body tries to say, hey, pay attention. Now, what kind of methods can we use to prevent injury, right? Well, there's mobility and flexibility exercises. Again, range of motion, mobility, working on the way in which the joints are able to move in their actions, in their range of motions. Flexibility, how stretchy can the muscles be, which also equivalates to strength. The more flexible you are, the stronger you can be. So those are good exercises. Stretch, do some mobility. A lot of people don't do mobility. A lot of people do stretching. Now, you can stretch specific ways. There's active dynamic, which is what you should do before and after a workout. Then there's also what's known as therapeutic. I'm here to tell you therapeutic stretching is much different than the stretching most people do. Therapeutic stretching occurs 90 seconds or more on average. Full stretch. Just take the muscle to a stretch, hold it for 90 seconds or more, and now you're in a therapeutic world of stretching. It's much different than the active dynamic, which is anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. That's another video I'll have to do. There's also supplementation, right? And I'm a little bit out on the fringe when it comes to diet and exercise and supplementation. I think all three need to be included. Diet's not enough. I do not believe diet is enough for everyone to get the nutrition they need, because year over year, the nutritional value of the foods from the 1950s till now has just been decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. That's why we have things like fortified grains, where we have to add niacin and other fortification processes to other foods to get them to the higher nutritional value they need. And even if we're doing that, the absorption factors and how they do it, and what kind of, it's a mess. So I say supplementation is kind of necessary. How do I do that? Well, easy way to start is with the multivitamin right there. If you're doing constant action that involves the joints, collagen is probably your friend. There are little things like that. And I'll again have to do another video on all of that, but supplementation is your friend for injury prevention. Professional bodywork, another way to prevent injuries. Check in with your body workers. I am a body worker. I do more than just massage. I included massage on the list there, but massage is that fun, fluffy stuff that everybody gets at a spa. I'm totally for it. If you want to take a nice mental health day, go get a nice massage. Yeah, they might do some deep tissue. Most of them are not doing therapeutic action. Bodywork is fully therapeutically focused. A lot of chiropractors practice bodywork. Acupuncturists with tuina and cupping practice bodywork. Those are bodywork modalities. So see a body worker, see a chiropractor, see an acupuncturist, even if it's just like on a maintenance schedule of every 3 months or something like that. Check in and, see what they have to say. And then there's also active rest days. This is one of my most important things I like to talk about, active rest days. I'm a Tai Chi instructor. I teach Tai Chi, which is a fantastic active rest day activity. It also is good for mobility and flexibility. But just going for a walk, doing some yard work, that's active, clean the house. That's an active rest day. Doing some sort of activity, but not going and hitting it hard. So less reps, less weight, bring it down, but stay active. It's not good just to kind of sit and be stagnant. You can do that if you're trying to, heal an injury, but to prevent injuries, we really should stay active, and we should stay active as much as possible. We shouldn't do crazy intensity though. We should bring the intensity down on some days and just do a nice active rest day. So that's what I have to say about injury prevention. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them below in the comment section. If you want to support me in any way, because I like doing these videos, and also because I talk about supplementation, head over to purebulk.com. Use Stoic Bodywork for 10% off your order. I get a small commission on all sales. I am the regional Northeast brick and mortar representative for Pure Bulk. So I sell their products in my Bodywork location. They're an amazing company. I can't say more about them. I can just go on and on. They're just an amazing company. You can get COAs directly from the lab, not through them. It's something that not a lot of people do out there. Tim McNulty, who started Pure Bulk, old school in the health and wellness industry. He's probably seen it all by this point. He knows prevention, supplementation, taking care of the body, paying attention. And then if you are curious about the mind-body connection or, self-awareness, mental health, come check me out on Taming Hindrances podcast, or go over to taminghindrances.com. I also have an archive at taminghindrances.com with a bunch of, stuff, just all sorts of topics and people to listen to, and just resources. So you can check out taminghindrances.com. Other than that, like and subscribe, leave some comments, and I'll get some of those other videos I was just talking about up and ready for everybody. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.